I mocked the
Look at
pastor's
that
old
rust
car.
bucket.
Yeah.
Then he showed me what faith really means. The
It's not
courtroom
the
air
car,
hung thick
it's
and
the
heavy,
heart behind it.
a suffocating blend of stale coffee and unspoken fear. Dust motes danced in the weak shafts of light piercing the grimy windows, illuminating the worn oak of the judge's bench and the polished brass of the railing, separating the accused from the gallery. My own hands, usually steady, trembled slightly as I adjusted the knot of my tie, a nervous tic I'd developed years ago during my initial training. I was here, not as a participant in the drama, but as an observer, a witness to a profound moment that would etch itself into the annals of this quiet, coastal town. The man in the defendant's box, Sergeant Major Elias Vance, was a legend in our community, a man whose quiet dignity and unwavering service had earned him a place of honor. Yet today he stood accused, the weight of a serious charge pressing down on his stoic frame. The whispers had started weeks ago, insidious tendrils of gossip that coiled around his reputation like a serpent. A black man, a decorated war hero, facing a jury of his peers. The irony was a bitter pill to swallow, a stark reminder that even the most decorated service could not always shield one from the harsh realities of prejudice. My own journey here was born from a careless, arrogant judgment, a dismissive glance at a worn-out vehicle that had, in my youthful ignorance, become the symbol of a profound misunderstanding. The pastor's car, a relic of a bygone era, had been the catalyst for a judgment I would come to deeply regret, a judgment that blinded me to the true meaning of faith and service. It was a judgment rooted in superficiality, in the shallow metrics of material success and outward appearances, a flaw I carried like a hidden scar. The courtroom, with its solemn pronouncements and stark pronouncements of guilt or innocence, felt like the perfect stage for a reckoning. This was not merely a legal proceeding. It was a crucible, a place where character would be tested, and where the veneer of respectability could be stripped away to reveal the raw, unvarnished truth of a man's soul. I was here to witness not just a trial, but an awakening, a forced confrontation with the flawed lens through which I had viewed the world, and the humbling realization that true worth often resides in the places we least expect to find it. The weight of the world, it seemed, had settled on Elias Vance's shoulders, and in a strange, unexpected way, it had also settled on mine. The air crackled with an anticipation that went beyond the legal implications of the charges. It was the anticipation of a revelation, a moment where the superficial would be cast aside, and the true essence of courage and conviction would be laid bare. I felt a tremor of something akin to dread, but also a potent, undeniable curiosity, a pull towards the unfolding drama that promised to redefine my own understanding of honor, sacrifice, and the quiet, unyielding strength of the human spirit. The story I was about to witness would challenge everything I thought I knew about justice, about faith, and about the silent battles fought every day by those who serve with unwavering devotion, often unseen and unacknowledged by the very society they protect. The charge itself was a festering wound in the community's conscience. A serious accusation, one that struck at the very core of the respect Elias Vance had painstakingly built over decades of dedicated service. He had served in the military with an honor that few could comprehend, his chest adorned with a Medal of Honor, a testament to a bravery that had defied the very definition of fear. Yet, here he was, facing the cold, impartial gaze of the law, the whispers of doubt amplified by the stark reality of the courtroom. My own presence was a penance of sorts, a silent acknowledgement of my own prior transgressions, a youthful indiscretion rooted in a shallow judgment of the pastor's humble vehicle. I had seen his car, a relic of a bygone era, its paint faded, its chassis bearing the honorable scars of countless journeys, and I had scoffed. In my arrogance, I equated material possessions with worth, a cruel and misguided metric that blinded me to the true richness of a life lived in service and devotion. The pastor, a man of quiet strength and deep compassion, had never spoken a word of reproach, never once allowing my youthful ignorance to diminish his own unwavering faith. But I had seen the flicker of hurt in his eyes, a subtle, fleeting expression that had, in hindsight, been the first crack in my own carefully constructed facade of certainty. Now, Standing in this somber hall of justice, the echoes of my own past judgments seemed to reverberate, a stark counterpoint to the gravity of the present proceedings. The courtroom was a microcosm of society, a place where the ideals of justice and fairness were meant to prevail, yet where the insidious currents of prejudice could still undermine even the most noble intentions. Elias Vance, a man who had embodied those ideals on the battlefield, now found himself at their mercy, a victim of a system that, despite its best intentions, could still be swayed by the subtlest of biases. My own journey was intrinsically linked to his. His struggle was a mirror reflecting my own internal conflict, a call to confront the superficiality that had once guided my own perceptions. The weight of the Medal of Honor, a symbol of extraordinary courage, seemed to press down on him, a silent testament to a heroism that transcended mere physical bravery, a testament to a moral fortitude that had been forged in the fires of adversity. I watched him, his gaze fixed forward, his posture resolute, a quiet strength radiating from him that defied the accusations leveled against him. This was not just about Elias Vance. It was about the soul of our community, about the values we held dear, and about the courage it took to confront our own ingrained prejudices. The air in the courtroom was charged with an almost palpable tension, a sense that history was being made, not just in the verdict that would eventually be rendered, but in the quiet, unwavering dignity of the man standing at its center. The judge, a man known for his stern demeanor and unwavering adherence to legal precedent, surveyed the courtroom with an impassive gaze. His presence commanded an immediate hush, a palpable shift in the atmosphere as all eyes turned to him, awaiting the commencement of the proceedings. He was a figure of authority, his robes a dark, imposing silhouette against the backdrop of the somber oak paneling. Yet, even he, I sensed, was not immune to the undercurrents of emotion that permeated the room. The case of Sergeant Major Elias Vance was more than just a legal matter. It was a community event, a painful dissection of reputation and character that had divided opinions and ignited hushed debates in every corner of town. My own involvement, though indirect, felt deeply personal. The memory of my dismissive judgment towards the pastor's car had become a persistent thorn in my side, a constant reminder of my own capacity for superficiality. It was a judgment born from a world that often equated worth with visible success, a world that overlooked the quiet triumphs of the spirit in favor of the ostentatious displays of wealth. The pastor, in his unassuming way, had embodied a different kind of wealth, a richness of character, and a depth of faith that I had been too blind to see. His worn-out car, a symbol of his humble journey, had been the unwitting catalyst for my own reluctant introspection. Now, as I sat in this courtroom, observing the unfolding drama, I recognized a parallel between my past blindness and the potential for prejudice that lurked beneath the surface of this trial. Sergeant Major Vance, a man who had proven his mettle on countless battlefields, was now facing a different kind of war. A battle fought not with bullets and bombs, but with words and accusations. The Medal of Honor, a symbol of his unparalleled courage, was a heavy burden to bear, a constant reminder of the sacrifices he had made, and a stark contrast to the vulnerability he displayed in this moment. The judge's gavel, when it finally fell, was a sharp, decisive sound that cut through the heavy silence, signaling the official beginning of a process that would, I suspected, reveal far more than just the legal facts of the case. It would reveal the character of a man, the prejudices of a community, and the quiet, transformative power of a faith that had been tested and would, I hoped, ultimately prevail. This was not merely a trial, it was a testament to the enduring human spirit, a narrative of redemption that was just beginning to unfold, and I was privileged, and perhaps even destined, to bear witness to its profound and unexpected conclusion. The prosecutor, a man whose reputation for relentless cross-examination preceded him, rose slowly, his movements deliberate, almost predatory. He carried an air of quiet confidence, the kind that comes from knowing the weight of evidence, or at least believing one does. He began to lay out the case against Sergeant Major Vance, his voice measured but firm, each word carefully chosen to build a narrative of guilt. He spoke of dates, of times, of circumstantial evidence, weaving a tapestry of doubt around the decorated soldier's impeccable record. I watched Vance, trying to decipher his reaction, but his face remained an unreadable mask of stoicism. His eyes, however, held a depth that spoke volumes, a quiet resignation mixed with an unwavering resolve. It was in those eyes, I realized, that the true story lay, a story far richer and more complex than the legal arguments being presented. My own past judgment of the pastor's car felt like a distant echo, a childish mistake in the face of the profound moral questions being debated here. The prosecutor's words painted a picture of a man who had, perhaps, fallen from grace, a narrative that played into the very prejudices I had once naively harbored. But I had learned, through the quiet example of the pastor and the silent strength of Vance, that appearances could be deceiving. True worth was not measured in the shine of a car or the crispness of a uniform, but in the integrity of one's actions and the resilience of one's spirit. The courtroom buzzed with a low murmur, the gallery a sea of faces, each reflecting a different shade of concern, of judgment, or of quiet hope. Some looked at Vance with suspicion, their minds already made up. Others watched with a sense of unease, a dawning awareness that the narrative being presented might be incomplete, or worse, fundamentally flawed. My own heart ached with a strange mix of apprehension and anticipation. I knew, with a certainty that went beyond legal reasoning, that there was more to this story, a truth that lay hidden beneath the surface, waiting to be uncovered. The prosecutor continued his methodical dismantling, each point a calculated blow aimed at Vance's reputation. Yet, Vance stood firm, his silence a powerful counterpoint to the prosecutor's eloquent accusations. It was a testament to a different kind of strength, a quiet defiance that spoke of a deep inner conviction. The air grew heavier with each passing moment, the tension in the room tightening like a coiled spring, building towards an inevitable release. A moment of truth that would either shatter or redeem the man at the center of it all. The prosecutor's voice, once so confident, began to falter as he presented a piece of evidence that seemed to contradict his carefully constructed narrative. A photograph, faded and creased, was presented, showing a younger Sergeant Major Vance, his face etched with the weariness of combat, but his eyes alight with a fierce determination. He was holding something small and metallic, something glinting in the harsh desert sun. The prosecutor explained with a strained tone that this was a locket, a personal item belonging to a fallen comrade, retrieved from a battlefield under intense enemy fire. He implied it was evidence of Vance's presence at a scene, a piece of the puzzle that didn't quite fit his theory of the case. A ripple of confusion spread through the courtroom. The prosecutor, visibly flustered, pressed on, attempting to reframe the evidence, to twist it back into his narrative of guilt, but the damage was done. The photograph, the story it told, had planted a seed of doubt, not just in the minds of the jury, but in the very atmosphere of the courtroom. I felt a surge of adrenaline, a visceral understanding that this was the turning point, the moment where the carefully constructed facade of accusation began to crumble. My own past judgment of the pastor's car, a superficial dismissal of a man's life based on an object, suddenly felt insignificant, a pale imitation of the profound judgment being rendered here. Vance, for the first time, shifted his weight, his gaze meeting the prosecutor's directly. There was no anger in his eyes, only a profound sadness, a weariness that spoke of battles fought and burdens carried for far too long. The prosecutor, sensing his advantage slipping, pushed harder, his questions becoming more aggressive, almost desperate. He was trying to force Vance into a corner, to elicit a reaction, any reaction, that would confirm his preconceived notions. But Vance remained unyielding, his silence a powerful testament to his inner strength. The courtroom held its breath, the tension palpable. The photograph, a simple image, had become a symbol, a silent witness to a truth that transcended the legal arguments. It was a reminder that true honor often lies, not in outward appearances, but in the quiet acts of courage performed in the face of overwhelming adversity. The prosecutor's narrative, so meticulously crafted, was beginning to unravel, thread by thread, revealing the flawed assumptions upon which it was built. Then, it happened. The judge, his face a study in concentration, leaned forward, his voice cutting through the tense silence. He asked Vance a question, not about the evidence, but about the photograph, About the locket. About the fallen comrade. "Sergeant Major," he began, his tone unexpectedly gentle. "Tell us about that locket." The question hung in the air, a pivotal moment. The prosecutor's strategy had been to reduce Vance to a series of actions, to strip away his humanity, to present him as a mere defendant. But the judge, in his wisdom, had seen beyond the legalities, had recognized the human story at the heart of the case. Vance took a deep breath, his shoulders visibly relaxing for the first time. He looked at the judge, then at the jury, his gaze steady and direct. He began to speak, his voice a low rumble, carrying the weight of years of unspoken grief and unwavering loyalty. He spoke not of military strategy or legal defenses, but of a young man, barely out of his teens, who had shared his meager rations, his dreams, and his fears. He spoke of the moment he had lost him, the chaos of battle, the desperate scramble to honor his fallen friend's last wish. He described the locket, not as a piece of evidence, but as a tangible connection to a life cut short, a promise kept. He spoke of the Medal of Honor, not as a personal achievement, but as a symbol of the collective sacrifice of his unit, a reminder of the faces he carried with him every day. His words were not a defense, they were a confession, a testament to the profound burden of survival and the enduring power of human connection. The courtroom was silent, utterly captivated. The prosecutor sat down, his face ashen, his carefully constructed case in ruins. The jurors, their expressions a mixture of awe and empathy, listened intently, their initial suspicions replaced by a deep respect. I felt tears welling in my eyes, a profound sense of catharsis washing over me. My own judgment of the pastor's car, my superficial assessment of worth, felt like a distant, almost laughable memory. Vance's story was a powerful indictment of my own past arrogance, a living, breathing testament to the fact that true honor is not found in possessions, but in the quiet acts of love and loyalty that bind us together. The courtroom, moments before a place of judgment, had become a sanctuary of shared humanity, a space where the truth, in all its raw, emotional power, had finally been revealed. The verdict was swift and unanimous, not guilty. The words echoed through the courtroom, a release of the pent-up tension that had gripped everyone present. Sergeant Major Vance stood, his Medal of Honor catching the light as he turned, his gaze sweeping over the faces in the gallery. There was no triumph, no exultation, only a quiet dignity, a profound sense of relief that had settled deep within him. He met my eyes, and for a fleeting moment, I saw a flicker of understanding, a silent acknowledgement of the journey we had both undertaken, though his had been far more arduous and significant. As the courtroom began to empty, a small group of people, family, friends, community members, gathered around Vance, their embraces warm and genuine. He accepted their congratulations with a humble nod, his presence radiating a quiet strength that had only deepened throughout the ordeal. I watched him, the weight of my own past judgment lifting with each passing moment. My encounter with the pastor's worn-out car had been a harsh lesson in humility, a forced confrontation with my own superficiality. Vance's trial, in its own way, had been a further illumination, a stark reminder that true worth is measured not by the outward trappings of success, but by the quiet resilience of the spirit, the unwavering loyalty to one's values, and the courage to bear witness to the truth, even when it is painful. The experience had stripped away layers of arrogance, revealing a more compassionate and understanding self. It was a profound shift, a recalibration of my moral compass, guided by the silent strength of a decorated soldier and the humble example of a man of faith. The courtroom, once a symbol of my own flawed judgment, had become a testament to the transformative power of empathy and the enduring strength of the human spirit. The weight of those courtroom hours lingered long after the gavel fell, settling not as a burden, but as a quiet understanding. The memory of Vance's stoic face, the prosecutor's faltering voice, and the judge's unexpected empathy were etched into my mind, a constant reminder of the complexities that lie beneath the surface of every life. My own initial judgment of the pastor's car, once a source of embarrassment, now felt like a distant, almost necessary misstep on the path to a more profound awareness. It was a reminder that true value is rarely displayed in polished chrome or pristine paint, but in the quiet endurance, the unspoken stories, and the unwavering spirit that carries individuals through trials I could only begin to comprehend. The experience had irrevocably altered my perspective, shifting my focus from the superficial to the substantive, from the fleeting judgments of the eye to the deeper resonance of the heart. The world, once viewed through a lens of material measurement, now appeared richer, more nuanced, and infinitely more deserving of empathy and understanding. It is in the quiet battles, fought unseen, that the truest measure of a soul is found. The aftermath of the trial settled upon me not as a finality, but as an ongoing recalibration. The courtroom, once a stage for my own self-righteous judgments, had become a crucible, burning away the dross of superficiality. I found myself observing interactions with a newfound sensitivity, noticing the subtle cues that had previously escaped my notice. A hurried nod from a stranger, a lingering glance from a shopkeeper. These small gestures, previously dismissed as insignificant, now held a potential for unspoken stories, for hidden struggles and quiet triumphs. It was as if a veil had been lifted, revealing a world far more intricate and profound than I had ever imagined. My focus shifted from the outward markers of success, the gleaming cars, the designer labels, the polished veneers, to the less visible, yet more potent, indicators of character. The steady gaze of someone who had faced hardship, the gentle hands of someone who offered comfort, the quiet resilience in the face of adversity. This wasn't a conscious effort to analyze, but a visceral response, a fundamental shift in how I perceived and interacted with the world around me. Building on this, however, I began to notice the subtle ways in which my previous assumptions had shaped my interactions. I recalled instances where a curt dismissal, a hurried brush-off, had been my default response to those who didn't fit my narrow definition of success. Now, I found myself pausing, offering a more considered response, an acknowledgement that went beyond mere politeness. This extended to my professional life as well. Where once I might have prioritized efficiency and outward results above all else, I now found myself more attuned to the human element, to the individual challenges and aspirations of those I worked with. It wasn't about abandoning my responsibilities or compromising my standards, but about infusing them with a greater degree of empathy, recognizing that behind every task, every project, there was a person with their own unique story and set of circumstances. This newfound perspective wasn't always comfortable. It often meant confronting my own ingrained biases and challenging the easy answers I had once accepted without question. Consequently, the rhythm of my daily life began to change. The relentless pursuit of external validation, the need to impress and to be perceived as successful, gradually receded, replaced by a quieter, more internal satisfaction. I found myself seeking out experiences that offered genuine connection, rather than superficial engagement. A conversation with an elderly neighbor about her garden, a willingness to listen to a colleague's concerns without immediately offering solutions. These simple acts became the new markers of a life well lived. This wasn't a rejection of ambition or achievement, but a redefinition of what constituted true success, a reorientation towards a more human-centered approach to life. The desire to impress had been replaced by a deeper yearning to understand, to connect, and to contribute in ways that truly mattered, not just to myself, but to the fabric of the community I was a part of. Furthermore, the impact of Vance's quiet strength and the pastor's unwavering faith began to manifest in unexpected ways. I started to actively seek out opportunities to offer support, not with the expectation of recognition or reward, but simply because it felt like the right thing to do. This might have been a small gesture, like helping someone carry their groceries, or a more significant commitment, like volunteering my time for a cause I believed in. The key was the intention behind the action, a genuine desire to alleviate a burden, to offer a moment of solace, or to contribute to something larger than myself. This shift from self-concern to outward service wasn't a dramatic overhaul, but a gradual, organic evolution, a natural consequence of the profound lessons I had absorbed. The world, once a landscape of potential rivals and superficial acquaintances, was transforming into a tapestry of interconnected lives, each thread deserving of respect and consideration. The courtroom's quiet aftermath was not an end, but a threshold. My journey, initially a clumsy stumble born from a shallow judgment of a pastor's humble vehicle, had been irrevocably rerouted by the profound integrity demonstrated by Sergeant Major Vance. This wasn't about a legal verdict. It was about a seismic shift in my internal landscape, a reordering of my values that had been prompted by witnessing true courage and unwavering faith under duress. The immediate impact was a heightened awareness of the unseen struggles that shape every individual. Before, my gaze had been drawn to the superficial markers of success, the polished exteriors, the outward displays of accomplishment. Now, my attention was drawn to the subtle indicators of character, the quiet fortitude that allows individuals to navigate life's inevitable adversities. Consider how this newfound sensitivity alters one's perception of professional interactions. Where once I might have focused solely on the efficiency of a task or the quantifiable output of a team member, I now find myself more attuned to the individual journey each person undertakes. This means recognizing that a missed deadline might not stem from a lack of diligence, but perhaps from a personal crisis, an unforeseen family emergency, or a quiet battle with anxiety that remains invisible to the casual observer. It's about understanding that the smooth operation of a project often hinges not just on robust processes, but on the underlying human resilience and emotional well-being of those involved. This deeper appreciation fosters a more supportive and collaborative environment, one where individuals feel seen and valued beyond their immediate contributions, leading to a more robust and sustainable success. Furthermore, this shift extends to how one navigates personal relationships. The impulsive judgments I once made, like my initial dismissal of the pastor's car, are now met with a conscious effort to delve deeper. Instead of accepting surface-level interactions at face value, I find myself seeking to understand the unspoken narratives that underpin them. This might involve extending a genuine inquiry about someone's well-being, offering a listening ear without immediate judgment, or simply acknowledging the effort someone has put forth, regardless of the outcome. This practice cultivates stronger, more authentic connections, built on a foundation of mutual respect and understanding, rather than fleeting impressions. It allows for the discovery of shared values and common ground, even amidst apparent differences, fostering a sense of community that transcends superficial acquaintances. Another crucial layer to this evolving perspective is the recognition that true strength often lies in vulnerability, not in its concealment. Sergeant Major Vance's willingness to share his personal grief and loyalty, rather than solely relying on his decorated status, was a powerful testament to this. Applying this to everyday life, it means understanding that admitting a mistake, expressing uncertainty, or seeking help are not signs of weakness, but indicators of emotional maturity and courage. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we create space for others to do the same, fostering an environment of trust and authenticity. This can be particularly impactful in leadership roles, where demonstrating vulnerability can empower teams to address their own challenges more openly, leading to more innovative solutions and a stronger collective sense of purpose. The ability to connect on this deeper, more human level is where true influence and lasting impact are forged. The courtroom, in its stark finality, had served as a potent catalyst, but the real work of integration began in the quiet aftermath, in the mundane rhythm of everyday life. My previous interactions, once guided by an almost unconscious categorization of individuals based on outward appearances, now underwent a subtle but significant recalibration. Consider how this manifests when navigating professional environments. Previously, my focus might have been laser-sharp on the tangible deliverables, the quantifiable metrics that painted a picture of efficiency. Now, however, I find myself more attuned to the undercurrents of individual experience that shape those deliverables. A team member's consistent punctuality, once taken as a given, might now prompt a deeper consideration of the personal discipline and inherent reliability that underpins it, rather than simply viewing it as a baseline expectation. This doesn't diminish the importance of results, but rather enriches the understanding of the human effort and character that drive them, fostering an environment where sustained effort is recognized not just for its output, but for the integrity it represents. Building on this, however, the recalibration extends to the very nature of communication. Where once I might have defaulted to direct, task-oriented exchanges, I now find myself more inclined towards a more nuanced approach. This means actively seeking to understand the unspoken context behind a colleague's statement or a subordinate's concern. For instance, A seemingly minor request for clarification on a project detail, previously processed as a simple informational query, might now be recognized as a signal of deeper uncertainty or a need for reassurance about the project's direction. Consequently, my response shifts from a purely factual delivery to one that also addresses the underlying emotional or psychological need, thereby strengthening the professional relationship and ensuring a more robust understanding of the task at hand. This subtle adjustment transforms routine exchanges into opportunities for connection and mutual reinforcement. Ultimately, the true significance of that day in court wasn't about the verdict itself, but about the enduring lesson it imparted. That honor is not a declaration, but a quiet, consistent practice. It is found not in the accolades one receives, but in the integrity with which one lives, the loyalty one demonstrates, and the empathy one extends, even when it is difficult, even when it is unseen. Sergeant Major Vance, with his Medal of Honor and his quiet strength, became more than a decorated soldier. He became a living testament to the profound impact of a life lived with unwavering principle. His story, and the quiet wisdom of the pastor, served as a reminder that the most valuable possessions are not those that can be bought or displayed, but those that are cultivated within: courage, compassion, and an unwavering commitment to truth. The practice of seeing beyond the superficial, of seeking understanding before judgment, and of valuing character above all else, is not a destination reached, but a continuous journey. The true practice begins now, in the quiet moments, in the everyday interactions, in the conscious choice to see the world and each other with eyes that have truly learned to look.